Hello and welcome back to Global Desi Women, where we celebrate powerful stories of purpose, transformation, and South Asian women rising into their truth. Today is a very different episode because this is not our usual audio podcast. Today, this is a special episode for our YouTube channel, and we are collaborating with our wonderful guest here, Divya Kotawala, and a powerhouse of resilience, creativity, and heart based in Delhi. A little bit about Divya. She is a wife, mother, businesswoman, author, podcaster, TEDx speaker, and a co founder of a jewelry brand, House of Kotawala, which is she built with her husband. So it is a pleasure, and it's going to be a very inspiring episode, a special episode, like I said, for our YouTube channel. And I look forward to talk to Divya about her journey and how podcasting has evolved and how it brings change in our lives, right? So thank you again, Divya, for joining us. And I look forward to getting into the conversation, getting to know a little bit about you. And to our guest, let's grab a cup of chai and let's get started.
Yes. Thank you so much, Arti, for that beautiful introduction. This means a lot, and I'm so happy to be here today with you.
Well, awesome, awesome. I appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about. I know the story and the journey for you as an author. It has a very deeper meaning to it. So let's start with that. Tell me a little bit about that.
So, I turned an author after I lost my father to COVID in 2021. And I was unable to handle my grief. Our parents are special. We all know about it. But sometimes, we tend to don't understand the vacuum that they create once they leave. And my situation was very, very unimaginable because pandemic made me so vulnerable that I didn't know how to say my last goodbye. And the only thing that stayed back with me was that my father was an extraordinary human being. As a daughter, I saw him as one. And I
Right.
just wanted to celebrate his life and give him the most unique tribute. So after losing him, I decided that I'm going to write a book and launched on his first death anniversary as my goodbye gift. And
Wow.
it took
That
me
is
11
so
months.
touching. That is really so touching.
So it just felt like a divine sign because you'll be surprised that before that, forget writing, I had never even read a single book. So for me, it was pouring all my emotions on those pages of a book, and just, keeping him alive and carrying forward his legacy. And what started as just a tribute turned out to be
Right.
something much bigger in months to come, because I realized that maybe my story was very personal, but my topic was universal, which is pain, which is grief. And there is nobody amongst us who can ever escape it. So it was my way to turn my pain into my biggest purpose. And instead of dipping into something as close to depression, I decided to rise above the most impossible and, make him alive with that book every moment. And I named that book My Dad's Daughter.
Oh, that is so sweet. And I know it did really wonderful. It was one of the top 10 on Amazon's bestsellers. So bravo to that. And that's
Thank
very
you.
exciting, right? Yeah. So I'm trying to understand, like, as an entrepreneur, how has your journey been, like, starting a business and then being a TEDx speaker and an author, and so it's a lot. It's a lot as a woman, as we all know, we wear many hats. So how are you juggling with all of these?
So, Arti, I'm a hardcore Delhiite. Means, is just my heart beats for my city, and
Yeah.
born and brought up here. All my education happened here. By God's grace, I went to the best institutes in Delhi. Again, something that a gift that my father gave me, because he chose the best for me that time. Because obviously, a child doesn't go and say, this school I want to go, this college I want to
Right.
join. We weren't a
Right.
generation of that I deal with today or you deal with. So
Right.
everything was planned by him, which really made the foundation of my life very strong and extremely
Mm.
confident. And most
Right.
importantly, it made me a multitasker. that, I love, as you said, managing a lot of things together with ease, because it just gives me a lot of happiness. So obviously this new feather of being an author or being a TEDx speaker or podcaster has happened in last 4 years only. But before that, when I got married in a jewelry family. It was a
Yeah.
300-year-old legacy which I got married into. And I
Wow.
joined my husband Manish, and he's the sixth generation jeweler. So when I joined him, so his setup was very, very traditional. And
Mm.
they've been doing something for years and generations, and there was no room for no scope to experiment. But luckily, he gave me a clear path to try whatever I wanted to. And with him together, we launched our brand, which is called House of Kotawala, and it's all about fine jewelry that we make for the market, both B2B and B2C.
Oh,
So it's my little baby that, we have our own manufacturing unit here. We churn out beautiful jewels every day and we sell them to our customers, to shopkeepers, to retailers. And,
wow.
it just keeps me
So
busy.
now next time I need jewelry, I know where to come.
Anytime, always welcome. Because
That is
jewelry is
awesome.
all about trust.
Yes.
So it just happens that when they know that you have a legacy backing you and you have years of experience, it just
Right.
helps people, and
So
especially
this,
now
are we talking like about gold jewelry or what kind of
we're
jewelry?
talking about diamond jewelry, diamonds,
Okay.
emeralds, and rubies and sapphires. And especially with the market flooded with lab grown these days,
Right.
there is so much doubt amongst customers.
Yeah.
So being in the line for generation always helps. It gives us an edge over a lot of other people.
Right, right, right. You've already acquired the trust, like you said, and also the
Yes.
brand. So
Yeah.
that helps a lot. Oh, that's
Yes.
fantastic. And also when we speak about, writing a book dedicating to your dad, that so much resonates with me because when I wrote my book, when I published my book, it's about Hindu rituals, but it's dedicated to my mom when she passed away. And I wrote this book because I saw my mom growing up, she's always done this Satyanarayana puja on
Hmm.
every Purnima without fail. So we saw her doing this ritual every month all these years. So when she passed away, it was like a constant reminder on that day that, oh my God, she used to do this, she used to do this.
Hmm. So
And being in US, we don't realize that we can perform these rituals at home. And
okay.
so I thought this would be a nice way to dedicate it to my mom. And so I wrote the book with all the, what are the things you need, the shopping list, and how to
Yes.
prepare the prasad and how to perform the puja and everything. And also there's a story with it where we grew up hearing from my grandma. So it was also there a little bit of like a personal touch to it.
Right.
It was like you said, again, I've never written anything before,
Ah,
but this was something I really wanted to dedicate something for my mom. And that's what I did. And I just feel like, it's like a memory, right? Like I
yes.
did something for her in her
Absolutely. And,
memories.
Aarti, it gives so much happiness because, our parents have done so much for us all
Mm.
their life unconditionally. And,
Right.
we just think that it's our birthright, to get everything from them, whatever we ever needed. But if, as kids, we are even able to contribute the slightest form of gift towards them in the form of the book, how I did or how you did, I think, we've just celebrated their life, their selfless, upbringing, like how.
Yes, yes. And I mean, like, it's so true because, seeing her perform the ritual every month, it kind of not just for me, but more for my kids.
Mm,
It's just built that for generations, right? Even my
yes.
kids know what Satyanarayana Puja is. I mean,
Mm.
like, it's easier in India because everybody knows everything in the cultural base, but abroad it is
It's a big
until you teach your kids, until they know what our culture is or what how we were how our upbringing was,
Mhm.
they don't understand that, right? So seeing
Absolutely.
my mom do this, it not only changed us but also our kids
Your
as well.
coming generations, which is so, and it would have never been possible if you wouldn't have done this book, because with your mom that whole memory would have eventually distant. We
Exactly.
all are growing older. I think the biggest fear that I had about my father was that when I lost him, I was almost touching 40. And for me, it was like eventually I am not going backward. Life is just going to get more complicated. I'm going to grow old. I'll have memory issues. And eventually, one day, maybe I just forget a lot of things related to my own father. So, this was my insecurity to just capture his essence in that book and keep him alive. That maybe I will grow old, but every time I open that book, my father is fresh and alive in those pages.
That is just so beautiful. That is just so beautiful. That's so true. So tell me a little bit about, I know that you've launched, I think it's called the healing anthology called The Stories of Courage.
Yeah. I
So tell
launched
me a little
another.
bit about that. What is that?
So, any beautiful journey comes with so many wonderful opportunities. And I'm somebody that, I grab them with both my hands because it just helps me grow every day. So recently I got an opportunity. I was on a platform with a lot of other authors, and they offered me that, we are coming out with this anthology, which is called Stories of Courage. And there were about 12 authors, and everybody had a very, very different story to share, which helped them transform their grief into their biggest strength. Like somebody went through a loss, like me, somebody lost a child, somebody had a broken marriage, a major setback in life, an accident which changed their life, a disease which completely transformed everything inside them. So, all the stories spoke about one theme, which was courage, and that every bad lesson can actually transform and help you be your best version. So I was glad to be a part of that anthology, and be a part of those with those 11 other authors.
Wow. So what does they, I mean, like, so it's kind of like a group that
Yeah,
authors get
it is
together?
like every author has their own chapter. Then their chapter talks about a similar theme. Like mine was about my father again and my journey of turning into an author. Somebody had another experience to share. So when a group of authors come together and create a book, that's called an anthology. So we all had one chapter each.
Wow. That's so
Just imagine
fantastic.
if somebody is struggling in life and they
Yeah.
get to read such 12 stories. I'm sure there will be at least two or three stories that will leave a lasting impact on them and
Yeah.
help them evolve as a better person.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think everybody, when they're in that phase of like,
Mm,
a feeling instability or feeling
yes.
grief or not being there, basically, they need that uplifting and they need a little bit of a pull to get back up and get
Yes.
stronger. So
Absolutely.
everybody needs that. And it's not, I mean, this is really nice. So I'm curious though, is that something that you just do like a once or it just continues? Or is that a kind of like an organization that keeps on going?
What, the anthology?
Uh-huh.
It was a one time opportunity. Means a lot of other platforms did connect with me that, why don't you be a part of our anthology? But obviously, you can't share the same story again and again.
Right, right, right,
You want to do something new. So
right.
I did it with one platform, and then I just took a break because my podcasting made me super busy. So
I
I
can
left.
understand. We both come from that world. I can understand. So let's
Yeah.
talk about your podcast now. How that journey has
So,
changed and how did you start and give
okay.
us some insights of it.
So I'm a very impatient person. I want everything very quick.
Yeah.
Being able to wait for things, like the simple example I can give you is my second book is just not happening for the simple reason that I don't have the patience to sit and write. Because, I want to connect. Now I have, an audience. I
Okay.
have love and support of so many followers. I want to connect with them instantly. For me
Yeah.
to tell them that wait for 2 years, I'm making my new book is something which is not coming very naturally to me. Although I have so much pressure from everybody that you cannot be a one book author, at least write one more
Like
and then say
something else.
goodbye. So I will. I'm pledging every day. But then during this phase only, I'm a very talkative person. So it just comes very naturally for me to emote my emotions immediately. And then
Right.
somebody one day just mentioned and invited me as a guest on a
Mm.
podcasting platform. And I was completely taken aback because this is not something I'd ever done. But
Right.
when I did, we recorded our first episode in flat 30 minutes. And that
Right.
gentleman was so surprised. He said, "You were flawless. Like, I'm sure you must have done that before." I said, "No, believe me, this is my first ever experience. But because I love talking, and obviously I'm talking about my own journey, so I don't need a
Right.
script."
It makes it easier, right?
A lot of times, then post that, I started getting invited to platforms as a guest where they would
Right.
interview me and ask about my journey. During that time, I started reading about podcasting, and I launched my own channel on Spotify where I would just record an audio podcast about
Right.
how I'm feeling that day.
I
It could have
see.
been about healing, about grief, about love, about friendship, about my father, anything that I resonated on that particular moment.
Moment.
And believe me, Arti, it used to be so surprising. I recorded about 12 episodes. It
Okay.
used to be in one go. I used to just take the phone, record it, add a background music, and launch it. And
Right.
the response was very good that, we loved what you said. We are connecting with what you said today. But
Right.
again, I lacked consistency there. And after the 12th episode, I fell ill there because I was going through a bad throat. Obviously, I couldn't record for a few weeks and it just went off the air. So those
Yeah.
11, 12 episodes are still there on Spotify by my name, but I never went back to it. And then I
Right.
realized that I'm really enjoying the video podcast because, there is a lot of human emotion involved in
Right.
it. It's a lot of fun. And that's when, I recorded a lot of episodes as a guest. But then I
Right.
suddenly got an opportunity to host it, come on the other
Mm.
side of the table and be a moderator. And I thought it was a wonderful opportunity because I had already spoken a lot about my own journey, but I really wanted to know about others and,
Others.
grow with it, along with it, and understand that, by the end of the day, we all have our own struggles. It's just that we always find the grass a little greener on the other side.
Also, it is inspiring, right? Because when
Yes,
you hear stories from other people, you
yeah,
get to connect with them, you get to learn from them,
yeah,
and even our audiences get so inspired with this. And
yeah.
that is again one of the other reasons I started my podcast is
Mhm.
because, our stories are so much similar.
I know. Lots of
It is
similarities.
lots of similarities. It's crazy. But I started the same reason the podcast is because as a business coach, I was meeting so many women and then, talking. And it got me thinking that we needed a platform for Indian women to speak and bring their inspiring stories. So my podcast is more about learning and uplifting Indian Desi women because it's more about inspiring stories.
Mhm.
It's not that I don't want to talk about grief or it's not that we're trying to hide that emotion, but I feel like there is a lot in our life that goes on. And just switching that 30 minutes, 40 minutes of that podcast where we learned something inspiring from our
Mhm.
guests, it changes not just for me but for all our listeners as well because they're looking forward to that inspiring story, right? They're uplifting themselves with that, getting into that moment like, oh yeah, this is, you never know which guest brings that aha moment for somebody who's listening to that. So that's one of the reasons we started our podcast. And ours is purely audio based. This is our first video based podcast, which is going to be like a special edition for YouTube. We started it and this is our second season and we've grown and grown and grown from there. So we're truly blessed and I have a amazing team of co-hosts. We are about 11 people that we all rotate and we come on the panel, and so it's always a fresh look at any topic or any guest that we are talking with. So we have a lot of interactions going on there as well. And because we do interviews all over the world, it's just virtual. So there's no, I guess we don't have to have an actual studio per se. So how do you find your guests, and how do you tell me a little bit about that?
So, as I already told you, that, Delhi breathes in me. So, I've been a very social person, and, I just like connecting to people. I'm forever trying to find out about different people, their journeys, just to motivate myself and keep learning.
Right.
Because, I'm a firm believer that, till you're living, your learning shouldn't end. And
Yeah.
every person who comes into your life, they are leaving with a lesson. It can be good,
Mm,
bad, or worse. It can help you grow. It can, help you completely change your path. So just keep learning. So when
absolutely.
I started working on this podcast, I did initially invite a few people whom I was, in touch with, and I knew their journeys were very interesting. Like, I'll give
Right.
you an example. This friend of mine, she's an organ donor to her own
Right.
father. And again, when it comes to a father daughter relationship, there is something that, I hold very close to my heart. So I invited her. I said, would you like to be a guest on my podcast and share about your journey? And believe me, Arti, the podcast was so loved that immediately about 12 to 15 people signed up with her for organ donation.
Oh
Because,
wow.
not every day you and I know the details of an organ
Yeah.
donation,
Yeah.
how
And
it
what goes
happens.
through the process and
Exactly.
everything. Yeah,
Exactly. And
absolutely.
my series is called From the Heart. So, we are
Mm,
just talking about some things which are so pure and just
right.
so natural coming to you that people do resonate. Like,
Right.
there was a sound healer, there is a numerologist. So I
Mm,
try covering women coming from various walks of life. Again, just how you said, you never know what inspires somebody. And
right.
I'm just trying to bring out the best in them because, they just love how our conversations flow so organically. And, there is nothing like being prepared, how you and I are talking today. So I
Exactly.
just let them be. I'm like, listen, don't be stressed. Don't go by the script. Just, I'm your friend. So right now, I'm only calling people that I know personally because,
Right.
then the conversations are very warm and very natural. But I
Right.
know as the platform grows, I will transition to unknown people as well. But then
Right.
again, the learning will be very beautiful and exciting.
Right. Well, this is your first. I'm the
Our meeting was so special. Yeah,
and we both
exactly.
are entrepreneurs. We both are podcasters. We both have dedicated a book for our loved ones. So there's and we both love chai. So that's
Yeah,
one more added to that. So
absolutely. It just
it
felt like a divine connection, and how we met because of a good cause. We both were
right.
supporting a similar cause about
Yes.
young
Yes.
girls being supported for their menstrual hygiene. Imagine,
Yeah.
people often say that, I've seen, especially in Delhi, that, you're struggling to make new friends, you're struggling to, enter a group or be seen, be heard. But I think if you're just being your own self, there is
Yeah.
no age to meet the right people. Just be open, just be very welcoming. And the amount of amazing people that I've met, Arti, in last 4 years, believe me, I didn't meet them in last 40 years. Because I had my own notions, very set notions. These are my college friends, these are my school friends, these are my daughter's friends. But
Yeah.
today I'm so open that, anybody who's entering my life will leave with a new lesson for me. That I'm, you are one of the biggest example that, we kind of, take Instagram so lightly. But you do end up meeting great people and it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It depends how you're using it. How you're using it. Yeah.
I mean, everything has pros and cons, and so you should know how to use it. But of course, leveraging to the point where we build our pure connections and have
True.
a meaningful, connections. That's very important. And I like
Very.
it because, same like you said, for me, it's building connection and getting to know so many women around the world. It has changed the way a lot of things I do, a lot of things I think about. It has made me, every podcast I say that it's making me a better person
Wow.
because
I'm
I
sure.
I totally learn and get inspired from other people's experience. And so it
Mhm.
has definitely made me a better person for sure.
I'm sure.
So I absolutely love and look forward to it in this past our second season and we're almost about to start our third, but yet thankfully I have not skipped an episode. So we publish it every Saturday morning and that's
Amazing.
done no matter what.
That's
So
so good.
we're blessed.
Consistency is something which is very difficult to maintain, but
Yeah.
that is the only biggest magical word that you can do on any
And
journey.
again, like I said, it's not possible without an amazing team that I have.
Okay.
All my co-hosts, we all working women, we all have
Hmm.
our own jobs or businesses or whatever we all are doing.
Hmm.
It's still we make it to the point that we gather up, we are dedicated to this podcast. I love that it was my idea, but their love and support is just tremendous. I don't think I can do it without them, so I
I'm sure. I'm sure.
definitely highly appreciate it, and I'm truly blessed to have
I
all
think
of them.
passion drives you completely, for the most
Yeah.
unexpected that you ever know.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you start something, this is my belief that when you start something powerful and meaningful,
Hmm.
the universe automatically works for it.
Totally. Most beautiful thing you've said.
Yeah, because I feel like as soon as we started the podcast, it was like a naturally getting connected with so many amazing women from
Hmm.
around the world that I felt like I don't think I would have been able to connect with all these women if I didn't have the platform. So it's the universe itself is creating that force and it's bringing me amazing women like you in my life and in my podcast and hopefully we keep on inspiring everyone around the world with all this podcasts. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that applies to you as well with your voice and your stories that you bring to YouTube is inspiring so many people. They're getting touched by the stories, right?
I've a lot of times, Arti, seen that, if you're just being your original self,
Yeah.
there is a vibe that attracts a lot of people around you, and you don't
Mhm.
have to put that extra effort to be heard and seen. Like, with so many social media, I'm handling my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my YouTube, and a lot of people are like, how do you find time for all this? But believe me, when the cause is so beautiful, it just becomes so simple and effortlessly I can do it.
Yeah.
So you're right that, if the passion is there, it can actually drive you. And I can't agree more that the universe actually aligns to
Yeah.
get you on that path, because so many opportunities just come on their own. You're not struggling to run behind them. They just come because your purpose is very pure and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And that is one of the things I think we wanted to create the voice for the women.
Hmm.
And when we started this journey, it was purely to have a voice and purely to bring how Indian women have evolved from like what our grandparents were, that was not our mothers, what our mothers were, we're not the same, and
Not
what
at
our
all.
kids are, our daughters are, they're not the same, but we still
Hmm.
have we've kept the roots and our culture, but we still have grown so much. So it's not
Totally.
like growing means we're losing our culture or we're losing
Not
our
at all.
roots, but it's about we still have that, but we're just growing and we
Yeah.
just changed according to the world has changed. So
Totally.
there are
And you
different
felt
ways of doing it.
like, your and my generation is definitely that last link between, the generation of our parents and this new generation, handles both the roles so beautifully. You're right
Yeah.
that, our parents had a very different lifestyle. Our kids are totally on a different path. But when it
Yeah.
comes to people like you and me, there is a beautiful balance and mix of all the things together. So I think
Yeah.
that's the
I
most
think we
beautiful
can pass
thing.
that. We can also
Yes.
pass that to our kids because I feel like when they see as kids, when I see what I saw with my parents, how they
Hmm.
were, I learned from them, right? Maybe
Exactly.
I tweaked it around according to the world we were in, but I
Hmm.
still learned from them so much. And the same thing applies with our kids because they see us, how we took care of our parents, how we loved, and the
Mm.
compassion is there. So they are learning from us, and hopefully they'll continue the saga and they'll take care of us when we get old.
Absolutely, they will. They will. My daughter says, "Oh my God, there is so much pressure on me." Seeing like everybody keeps telling her like your mother is such a beautiful daughter to her father. She's like, "Oh my God, mom, there is too much pressure to handle."
That is so funny. No, but it's the love, right? It matters.
By the
It's
end
not.
of the day, it's just love and feelings. Yeah.
It is.
You
It
can
is.
emote them in whichever way you can. But till the
Right.
time you do them, and my only message to everybody always has been, seeing my own case, don't wait for that moment, because
Right.
sometimes it just never comes. Like with my
Right.
own father, the biggest regret I'd ever have, and which will go to my deathbed with me, that I never had a goodbye with him. And
Mm,
something which I had never thought as a daughter, that, that I'll have
mm,
to go through this pain of having a list of things to share with him, thinking that there will be a perfect moment, but that
mm,
moment never came. And maybe that's the biggest shift that has come into me post that day. That I just want to do everything today. For
right.
me to keep planning about future doesn't work, because
Right.
you never know, and especially if you see the uncertainties around ourselves. We have experienced a pandemic, the Ahmedabad air crash that we just recently saw,
Mhm.
seen so many young people going because of cardiac arrest these days. It scares me that just live in the moment. What about tomorrow
Yeah.
never comes? Why are we
Yeah.
constantly planning?
Yeah. And also I feel like to add to that, I feel like we should never forget to say I love you to the person you love and care because we take that for granted. You're like, okay, yeah, I
Most.
don't need to express yourself just because you love some, but it is important to say it and express yourself because nobody knows what our last words are going to be, right? It's better somebody remembering you with the good words than
Hmm. Yeah.
anything else. So I
Yeah.
always say that express yourself, say love you to the person really matters in your life and make them important as well. So
Yeah.
that's the best way to do it.
The best medicine ever.
Yeah. But this has
Yeah.
been such a nice conversation and I really loved connecting with you, Divya.
Together.
But thank you again. If you haven't checked out Divya's podcast, please do that. And all the Divya's listeners, check out our podcast, which is Global Desi Women. We are on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and many, many other channels. So do check us out and subscribe, review, and let us know how we can bring different guests on our podcast and anything that you would like us to, talk about, let us know.
Arti, this seems like a wonderful, beautiful, divine connection that we both are here today in this moment. And lots of power to you to keep growing. Hopefully, to meet super soon, in one of our countries.
Yeah.
Until then, just keep growing and keep doing
Yeah.
the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.